The moment Sarah knocked on my door that Thursday evening, mascara streaking down her cheeks and her hair wrapped in a towel, I had no idea I was standing at the threshold of a transformation that would unravel everything I thought I knew about loss, connection, and the invisible threads that bind strangers into family. I'd been living in apartment 4B for 3 years, perfecting the art of isolation. After Emily died, I'd built walls so thick that even sunlight felt like an intrusion. My days blurred into a monotonous routine. Wake up, go to work at the accounting firm, come home, microwave something resembling food, and fall asleep to the flickering glow of late-night television. I'd stopped answering calls from friends, stopped attending family gatherings, stopped believing that anything beyond mere existence mattered anymore. The world had taken my wife, and in return, I'd taken myself out of it. Sarah had moved into 4C 6 months earlier. I'd seen her in passing, a blur of auburn hair, always rushing somewhere with canvas bags full of art supplies. She'd wave sometimes, offer a smile that I'd barely acknowledge with a nod. I wasn't trying to be rude. I simply had nothing left to give anyone. But there she stood, shivering despite the summer heat, desperation carved into every feature. "I'm so sorry to bother you," she stammered, "but my shower just exploded. There's water everywhere and the landlord isn't answering. And I have a gallery opening tomorrow morning where I'm supposed to present my entire collection. And I'm covered in paint and I just—" Her voice cracked, and she pressed her palms against her eyes. Something shifted in my chest. Maybe it was the raw vulnerability. Maybe it was the memory of Emily, who'd always been the first to help anyone in need. Or maybe after 3 years of numbness, I was simply too exhausted to maintain my fortress. "Come in," I heard myself say. "Use my shower." The relief that flooded her face was almost painful to witness. "Are you sure?" "I don't want to impose, it's fine, really." While she showered, I called my buddy Marcus, who worked in plumbing. He agreed to come first thing in the morning. I found myself pulling out clean towels, making coffee, doing things that felt foreign after years of only taking care of my own basic needs. When Sarah emerged, wearing the oversized robe I'd offered her, she looked younger somehow, less guarded. "Thank you," she said, cradling the coffee mug. "You have no idea what this means." We sat in awkward silence until she noticed the photograph on my bookshelf. Emily and me on our wedding day, faces bright with a future we'd never get to have. "Your wife is beautiful," Sarah said softly. Was. The word came out harder than I intended. Brain aneurysm? 3 years ago last April. I waited for the pity, the uncomfortable platitudes, the inevitable backing away. Instead, Sarah simply nodded. "My fiancé died 2 years ago. Drunk driver ran a red light." She traced the rim of her mug. "Everyone kept telling me that time heals, that I'd move on, that I was young enough to start over. As if love was some kind of subscription service you could just cancel and renew with someone else. For the first time in years, I was sitting with someone who understood the specific gravity of grief, how it doesn't diminish, but rather becomes something you learn to carry differently. We talked until 2 in the morning. She told me about her art, how she'd channeled her pain into abstract paintings that explored loss and memory. I told her about Emily, stories I hadn't spoken aloud since the funeral. How she'd sung off-key in the shower, how she'd insisted on rescuing every stray animal, how the house had felt cavernous without her terrible singing. Marcus fixed Sarah's shower the next morning, and I expected that to be the end of it. But that evening she knocked again, this time holding a canvas. "I wanted you to have this," she said. The painting was a storm of deep blues and purples, shot through with veins of gold. It was beautiful and devastating, chaos held together by delicate threads of light. "I call it breaking open," she explained. "Sometimes we have to shatter completely before we can let anything new in." I hung it above my couch, and somehow it changed the entire apartment. The walls didn't feel quite so suffocating anymore. Days turned into weeks. Sarah and I fell into an easy rhythm. Coffee on Saturday mornings, take-out dinners while watching terrible reality TV, long walks through the neighborhood where we'd talk about everything and nothing. She didn't try to fix me, and I didn't try to fix her. We simply existed together in our brokenness, and somehow that was enough. One evening, about 2 months after the shower incident, I found myself laughing, actually laughing at something ridiculous Sarah had said about her gallery owner's toupee. The sound shocked me. I couldn't remember the last time I'd laughed, really laughed, the kind that comes from somewhere deep and unguarded. Sarah noticed. "There you are," she said softly. "Where was I?" "Wherever people go when the pain is too loud to hear anything else." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "I've been there too. It's good to see you coming back." But I was terrified. Letting Sarah into my life meant risking devastation all over again. It meant acknowledging that my heart, which I'd assumed was permanently calcified, might still be capable of feeling. The breaking point came during a thunderstorm in late September. The power went out across the building, and Sarah showed up at my door with candles and a bottle of wine. We sat on my living room floor, shadows dancing across walls, and she asked the question I'd been avoiding. "What are you so afraid of, James?" I could have deflected. Should have deflected. Instead, I told her the truth. "I'm afraid that if I let myself care about someone again, the universe will take them too. I'm afraid that happiness is just a setup for suffering. I'm afraid that I don't have it in me to survive losing someone else." Sarah was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was steady. "Emily died, and that's a tragedy that nothing can change. But you've been dying too, James. Slowly, quietly, and that's the real waste. She wouldn't have wanted you to stop living?" Tears burned my eyes. "How do you know what she would have wanted?" "Because love doesn't work that way. Real love wants the beloved to thrive, even in its absence. Especially in its absence. The dam broke." I wept in a way I hadn't allowed myself to since Emily's funeral, huge, gasping sobs that came from somewhere primal. Sarah held me, and I realized this was the first time in 3 years that I'd let another human being see me completely shattered. When the storm finally passed, both outside and within me, something had fundamentally shifted. I wasn't healed. Grief doesn't work like that. But I was beginning to understand that carrying loss doesn't mean carrying it alone, and that opening yourself to connection isn't betraying the past. It's honoring it by choosing to remain part of the living world. Sarah's shower breaking wasn't just a plumbing failure. It was the hairline fracture that eventually brought down my walls. Through helping her, I'd accidentally helped myself, or maybe we'd helped each other. Sometimes kindness is less about grand gestures, and more about simply showing up, being present, and allowing yourself to be human in the presence of another human. We're still neighbors. We're also best friends and maybe eventually something more. But there's no rush. We're both learning that healing isn't linear, that love takes many forms, and that sometimes the most profound transformations begin with the smallest acts of compassion, like offering a stranger your shower on an ordinary Thursday evening.